Here are the video solutions for Pearson Edexcel Functional Skills Maths Level 2. This is section A, which is the non-calculator section from set 8. So let's scroll down and take a look at question number 1. So we want to work out how much money Eve will save using the meal deal. So the meal deal is $3.99. So how much would it have cost if she bought these three items separately? Well, it would have cost $2.85 plus £0.79 plus £1.59. So let's add these up. Let's put a decimal point in line in the answer box. 9 plus 9 is 18, plus 5 is 23, 3 carry 2. 8 plus 2 is 10, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 2 carry the 2. 2 plus 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. So normally it would have cost £5.23. So what's the difference between £5.23 and £3.99? Well, in other words, what's £5.23 minus £3.99? I'm just going to fiddle these numbers. That is going to be exactly the same as £5.24 take away £4. Just makes the calculation a lot easier. Just increase both of them by a penny. What's the difference between £5.24 and £4? Well, £4 to £5 is a gap of £1 plus the other 24p, so the saving is £1.24. Question number 2, it's division, not adding, so we don't really want to divide by a decimal. So what we need to do is get rid of this decimal, and what we're going to do is we're going to multiply both numbers by 10. Now, a lot of people are confused by why we do this, and I always ask people, well, what is 8 divided by 4? The answer is 2. And normally when I say to people, what is 80 divided by 40? Their reaction or their instinct is to say 20, but it's not, it's still 2. Count up in 40s till you hit 80, it's still 2. So what that means is we can multiply both numbers by 10, and it won't affect the final answer. So if I multiply 74.88 by 10, I get 748.8, and I'm going to, instead of dividing by 1.2, if I multiply this by 10, I get 12. And I'd much rather divide by 12 than 1.2. So 748.8, put a decimal point above on the bus stop there. 7 divided by 12 won't go, so carry the 7. Okay, how many 12s go into 74? So 5 12s are 60, so 6 12s are 72 with a remainder of 2. 2 12s are 24, so that is a remainder of 4. 48 divided by 12 is 4. So if 748.8 divided by 12 is 62.4, you don't need to fiddle the answer. That is exactly the same as the answer to this question, in the same way that 2 was the same answer to both of these two questions. So there's our final answer, 62.4. Okay, question number 3. So the kite is a four-sided shape, so the angles add up to 360. We know two angles at 108 and 49, so let's add them together. 8 plus 9 is 17, carry 1, plus the 4 is 5, 157. So of the 360 degrees, we've accounted for 157, so how many degrees are left over? Okay, 0 minus 7 can't be done, so 6 becomes 5, 0 becomes 10, 10 take 7 is 3, 5 take 5 is 0, 3 take 1 is 2. So these two angles here add up to 203 degrees. Now, one of the properties of a kite is that this angle here and this angle here are the same. So what is x? Well, it's simply going to be 203 divided by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, 0 divided by 2 is 0, 3 divided by 2 is 1 with a remainder of 1. So we need a decimal point and a 0, so I can put that remainder of 1 on there. 10 divided by 2 is 5, so 101.5 degrees. Use estimation to check your answer. Okay, well, if I call this 110 degrees and I call this 50 degrees, then so far that is conveniently 160 degrees, and 360 degrees take away 160 degrees is 200 degrees, so if they both add up to 200, half of 200 is 100 degrees, and 100 degrees is approximately, well, wrong way round really, 101.5 degrees is not a million miles away from 100 degrees. There we go. Okay, question number 4. So what we need to do is work out the area of this trapezium. Now the area of a trapezium is half of A plus B times by H, where A and B are the parallel sides. So this side and this side are parallel. Now this side is 1.8 and this side is 2.6. And the height is the distance between those two sides, so times by 3. Now what we want is we want 2 lots of a half of the rest of this calculation, because we want to calculate this side as well. And of course 2 times a half is the same as 1. So we can just simplify the equation by, well, the 2 and the half cancel each other out. So the calculation is 1.8 plus 2.6 multiplied by 3. So what is 1.8 plus 2.6? 8 plus 6 is 14, carry 1, 4.4. And what is 4.4 times 3? Well, that's 4.4 plus 4.4 plus 4.4. 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 4 again is 12, carry 1, 4, 8, well, still, I don't know why I'm doing, trying to calculate it again because I've just done it. It's still 12, plus 1 is 13. So 13.2. Okay, so the area of both of those are 13.2, and we've been told that the front and the back are being clad as well, and that is 8.8. So what is 13.2 plus the 8.8? Put in a decimal point. 2 plus 8 is 10, carry 1. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, carry 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. Now each pack of cladding covers 1.1 metre squares. Well, how many 1.1s go into 22? So the calculation is 22 divided by 1.1. And as we done a fairly recent question, very similar to, I've lost it now, this question here where we fiddle when we're dividing by a decimal, we're going to do exactly the same again here. So instead of doing 22 divided by 1.1, you want to avoid dividing by a decimal. Multiply both numbers by 10, so that's 220 divided by 11. Okay, how many 11s go into 2? None, carry the 2. 22 divided by 11 is 2. 0 divided by 11 is 0. So the answer is 20. So 220 divided by 11 is 20. So that means 22 divided by 1.1 is also 20. So we need 20 packs of cladding. There we go. And that is the end of section A. Here are the video solutions for Pearson Edexcel Functional Skills Maths Level 2. This is section B, which is the calculator section, and this is set 8. So let's take a look at the first question. Okay, so here we've got a two-way table showing the results of spinning a fair spinner twice. And what's the probability of getting the same colour on both spins? Okay, so we could get red followed by red, or blue followed by blue, green, green, orange, then pink, pink. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ways to get the same colour. And how many options are there in total? Well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So 5 out of 25 possible outcomes are the same colour, and 5 over 25, we can simplify that. Both of these numbers are divisible by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1, 25 divided by 5 is 5, so the probability is 1/5. And what is the probability of getting at least one blue? Okay, so let me just delete all of this. Okay, so at least one blue. So again, we know there's 25 different outcomes. Okay, so all of these are at least one blue, and all of these are at least one blue. There's no B's in anywhere else. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Make sure to not count that one twice. And can 9 over 25 be simplified? The answer is no, so 9/25. Okay, question number 2. So the ratio is butter to flour, and the ratio is 4:9. So what that means is 4/13 of the recipe is butter and 9/13 is flour. Where does the 13 come from? Well, it's 4 plus 9. Okay, so if we're making 650 grams of pastry, then we need, so we're interested in flour, then we want to work out, well, what is 9/13 of 650? Now, when you're working out a fraction of a total, take your total, divide it by the number on the bottom, and then times by the number on the top. 650 divided by 13 times by 9 is 450 grams of flour. And what did she have? She only has 425. So does Habiba have enough flour? No, she is 25 grams short. Okay, question number 3. Okay, so the recipe is for 12 and we want to make 30. So we know that 10.5 fluid ounces will give us 12 cupcakes and we want 30. So if it was 24, that would be double the number of cupcakes, so double the amount of milk. So how many times greater than 12 is 30? Well, the answer is, what is 30 divided by 12? And that is 2.5. So we're scaling the ratio up 2.5 times. So therefore we need 2.5 times more milk, and 10.5 multiplied by 2.5 is 26.25. Okay, so it's 26.25 fluid ounces, and we want to the nearest milliliter. So if 1 is 28.418, then 26 is going to be 26.25 will be 26.25. Lots of 28.413 even, and that comes to 745.84125. So to the nearest milliliter means we're looking at this figure here. The rest we can completely ignore, and since this is greater than 5, this 5 will round up to a 6, so that is 746 milliliters. Okay, so for question number 4, we need to plot this data. So what I'm going to do first of all is label the axis. This is going to be the x-axis, money spent. So I'll write down here money spent. And up the side is number of new customers. There we go. So money spent goes up as far as 325. So I'm thinking 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, 400. Perfect. I like to try and maximize the graph paper, so I wouldn't go 50, 100, 200, 300, because then all this half of the graph paper will be completely wasted. So 0, 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, 400, and the money spent, is that just in pounds or thousands of pounds? It's just pounds, right? So I'll just make a unit here, pounds. Okay, and the number of customers goes as far as 23. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. That does waste quite a lot of space there. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm trying to think the best way to do this, going up to 25. Well, it's probably easier just to go up in 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Maybe I could have stretched that out a little bit, maybe by... It's nice to go up in 5s or 10s. I couldn't go up in 10s. Well, I could go up in 10, 20, but that would be even worse. We'll just leave it at that. I think that's reasonable. Okay, so money spent 100 and is 7, so 100, so 5, 6, 7. 175, 12. Here's 175, 10, 11, 12. 84. So 50, 60, 70, 80, and that is 4, which will be there. 250, 16, there's 250, 15, 16 is there. 158, there's 150, there's 10, 9, 10, 9, 8. There we go. Missed it by tiny bit. If you use a very sharp pencil, you should be fine with these. Was that the 158 one? Yes, it was. 325, 23, 325, 20, 21, 22, 23 is there. 1259, 125, 10, so down 2 for 9, and finally 290, 18. Here's 290, so it's 2 to the left of the 300, and it was 18, 2 to the left, 19, 18. There we go, done. Okay, there we go. So draw a suitable diagram for Callum. There we go. There we've done a scatter graph there, and okay, it doesn't ask us to comment on the relationship. We can see there is a positive correlation. The more he spends on advertising, the greater the number of new customers, but that's not been asked there. Okay, question number 5. So what we need to do here is work out the BMI of Misha. So here is the formula. So the BMI is the weight in kilos, so 73.3 divided by the height squared. Now 67 inches, well, if 1 inch is 2.54, then 67 inches is 67 times by 2.54, and 67 multiplied by 2.54 is that's 170.18 centimeters. So to turn this into meters, we'll divide that by 100, and that is 1.7018 meters. So we're dividing the 73.3 by 1.7018 squared. So you might need to calculate what this is squared first, and then do 73.3 divided by that. It depends on what your calculator can handle. But 73.3 divided by 1.7018 squared comes to, and we'll just round it to, it's probably sensible to round it to 1 decimal place since all the others are 1 decimal place as well. So 1.7018 squared, and that comes to 25.3096. So let's just call that 25.3. Okay, so we want to work out the mean. So the mean is simply all of these numbers added together divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If I add all of these together, it's 210.4. Divide that by 8, and I get 26.3. There we go. So compare the mean BMI of the people in the rowing team with the mean BMI of women in the UK. Okay, so the mean in the UK is 26.9, missed that bit, and this is 26.3. So the rowing team's BMI is lower, and we could say how much lower, which is the difference between 26.9 and 26.3, 0.6 lower. There we go. All right. Probably should have written all that in the box, of course. Right, question number 6. Okay, so remember that if we're writing a really big number, group them in groups of 3 from the right, put a comma. 1, 2, 3, comma. So this comma here represents the word 1,000. This comma here represents the word million. So so for the word million, that's replaced with a comma. 1,000 is replaced with a comma as well. Can I now write 3 in front of that comma, of course. Can I write 675 in front of the next comma, 675? And I can't just leave this blank, so that's just going to be 3 zeros. So that's 3, 675, 000, so 3,675,000 and nothing. So 3,675,000. You don't have to write the commas in the answer box, of course. If you prefer to leave them out, that's fine. Right, 760 grams is a fraction of 1 kilo. Well, 1 kilo is 1,000 grams. So it's 760 over 1,000. So I've written it as a fraction. Now I can simplify the fraction because you won't need it in its simplest form. Well, first of all, we can just chop off a 0. That's nice and easy, didn't require any thought. We've divided top and bottom by 10. I've got 2 even numbers, so I can divide both these numbers by 2. So that becomes 38 on the top, 50 on the bottom. I've still got two even numbers, so I can divide the top by 2 to give me 19 and the bottom to give me 25. So that is 19 over 25. Okay, question number 7. So Niam looks at the screen time report on his phone. This week his average is 28% greater than his screen time last week. Okay, right, so this is difficult because we're kind of working the question backwards. So last week has increased by 28%, so that means it would have been multiplied by 1.28 to give us this new value of 3 hours and 44. Now, if you're wondering where this number 1.28 comes from, we are increasing by 28%. The multiplier for 28% is 0.28. This is what we would use if we're calculating 28% of an amount. It's the decimal equivalent of 28% is 28 divided by 100. But if I want to increase by 28%, I add 1 to this figure. So if I'm increasing something by 28%, I would multiply it by 1.28. So therefore the last week value would be 3 hours and 44 divided by 1.28. So what I'm going to do here is turn 3 hours 44 into minutes. So 3 hours is 60, 120, 180, 180 plus 44 is 224 minutes. And I'm going to divide that by 1.28. Sorry, it's not 244, it's 224. I got influenced by the 44 there, so let's write that again. 224 divided by 1.28, and 224 divided by 1.28 is 175 minutes. So last week was 175 minutes. So how many 60s go into 175? Well, that's going to be 2 hours. 2 hours is 120. Take away 120 from 175 is 55. So that is 2 hours and 55 minutes. Okay, so on to question number 8. So the key thing here is working out the area of this floor space. So we know it's 600 millimeters from here to here, but we also need to factor in another 100 millimeters between the cabinet, the cabinet bases. So in other words, instead of seeing this as 600, let's see this as 700 millimeters. Now 700 millimeters, if I divide that by 10, because there are 10 millimeters in a centimeter, is 70 centimeters, and 70 centimeters is 0.7 meters. Just divide that by 100, because there's 100 centimeters a meter. Okay, so in other words, the area of the floor space is going to be 3.6 minus 0.7 and minus another 0.07 on this side, and 3.6 minus 0.7 minus another 0.7 comes to 2.2. So this distance here that we're putting the heating pad on is 2.2 meters, and the other dimension is going to be 4.5 meters minus just the one 0.7, and that is 3.8. Okay, so a little bit confusing now. So now all we've got is it's a bit cluttered. Is a rectangle which is 2.2 and 3.8. Okay, so the area is going to be 2.2 multiplied by 3.8, and 2.2 times by 3.8 is 8.36 square meters. So this is the area that's going to be covered with this the heating cable pack. So a small is not going to be big enough, a medium is not going to be big enough, a large will be big enough, so that will therefore cost £179.99. Use the reverse calculation to show a check of your answer. So the final calculation we did was working out the area, 2.2 multiplied by 3.8, which gave us 8.36. I don't know why you'd perform this check, because now I'm going to do division, which is harder than what we were doing to begin with in my opinion. So we can either do 8.36 divided by 2.2 to check that we get 3.8, or we can do 8.36 divided by 3.8 to check that we get 2.2. And since both of these are correct, then we know that the original calculation was correct as well. Okay, question number 9. So we want to work out the volume of a cylinder. So the volume of a cylinder, if I just do a quick sketch of a cylinder, it's like any prism, it's the area of its face multiplied by its height, and here the face is a circle. So we want to work out the area of this circle, so pi r squared multiplied by the height of the cylinder, and since this is the front elevation, this is going to be the height here. So we can see that the height is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this is going to be the centre of the circle, and here the radius is 3. So pi r squared h, so that's going to be 3.14 multiplied by 3 times 3, multiplied by the height, which is 8. So grabbing the calculator, what does that come to? 3.14 times 3 times 3 times by 8 comes to 226.08. 226.08 cubic centimetres. Okay, 10a, write 15 over 7 as a mixed number. So this line of a fraction means divide. So the question is, what is 15 divided by 7? Well, how many 7s go into 15? Well, the answer is 2, and there is a remainder of 1, because 2 7s are 14, plus 1 is 15, so that's 2 and 1/7. Okay, for here, for B rather, we want to find the median, so we need to remember that the median is the value in the middle, but only the one in the middle when they are in order. So let's put them in order, lowest first, -5, -3, 0, 4, 4, 6. So to find the one in the middle, let's cross off one on the left and one on the right. Let's do that again. And I was hoping just to get one number in the middle, but we've got two numbers in the middle, and the reason for that is because we have an even number of values. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 values. When you've got an even number of values, you end up with 2 in the middle. And now the median is halfway between 0 and 4. Halfway between 0 and 4 is, of course, 2. So here the median is 2. Write 28% as a decimal. So to convert a percentage to a decimal, so just remember percentage to decimal, you are dividing by 100. So 28 divided by 100, and that is 0.28. Okay, so the next part, so what we need to do is, this is the cost of the meal, but the charge is going to be this plus 2.75%. So basically what we need to do is increase 38.9 euros by 2.75%. Okay, so the multiplier for 2.75% is 0.0275. This is the multiplier we would use if I was calculating 2.75% of an amount. So what I could do is multiply 38.9 by this number here, and that would tell me what 2.75% of it is, and then add it on to the 38.9. Or if I want to increase by 2.75%, I just add 1 to this number, so the multiplier is 1.0275. So 38.9 euros multiplied by 1.0275 comes to what? That comes to 39.96975 euros. Now I need to convert this into pounds. So I know that £1 was, let me just, what was it, 1.127. And we have 39.96975 euros. So what we need to do is work out, well, how many times greater is this figure here than 1.127? In other words, what we need to do is to divide 39.96975 by 1.127. And this figure here divided by 1.127 comes to 35.461668. So therefore, if this number here is this number of times greater than 1.127, then for an equivalent number of pounds we need to multiply this. We need to multiply £1 by this number. Well, of course, £1 multiplied by this number is simply going to be £35.46561668. Of course, this is a ridiculous figure. since we're dealing with money, let's round it to 2 decimal places, so we're interested in the value of the 3rd decimal place. It's a 5, so this 6 will upgrade to a 7. So the answer is £35.47p. 35.47. There we go. Okay, so question 12a. This is Bilal's normal pay per hour, but he gets time and a half. So what I want to do is multiply this by 1.5. Okay, if it's a time and a half, if you multiply it by 1, that would be normal time. Multiplying by 1 is fairly pointless, but 1.5 will increase that by half, by 50%. Well, this is the multiplier for a 50% increase. And this is for 7.5 hours, so multiply that by 7.5, and what do we get? That comes to 97.875. So again, since this is money, let's round to 2 decimal places, so £97.88. Bilal thinks the supermarket will pay him more than £100, so we can just say Bilal is wrong, as he will be paid £97.88, which is less than £100. Done. Okay. So for this question, it's about consistency. So this question is all about the range. So remember, to work out the range, it's the biggest value minus the smallest value. So for Bilal, what is the biggest value here? It's 283.94. Take away the smallest, which is 186.32. And that is a range of £97.62. And for Mina, the largest is 308.71, and the smallest is 126.40. Okay, and this is a much bigger range, which is £182.31. To be honest, we don't even need to do the calculations to work out, well, we probably do have to get the marks, but Mina's, since this number is bigger than Bilal's, and since Mina's smallest is much smaller than Bilal's, that means the range is obviously going to be greater for Mina than Bilal. So what we need to remember is the smaller the range, the more consistent. The bigger the range, the less consistent. So Bilal is paid more consistently. I can't quite fit it in, but I was trying to write more consistent there. So were Bilal's wages more consistent than Mina's? So yes, as the range for Bilal, and I put in brackets, £97.62 was smaller than the range for Mina. And make a note of that, 182.31. There we go. And that was the final question, so that is the end of the assessment.